Doctor Who Tales from Time. An Old Man and His Dog. Written and narrated by Joshua Mann. Silence. That beautiful word. The absence of all noise. The Doctor could do with some silence in this moment, as he sat on the steps leading to the TARDIS console. He tapped his foot, then stopped, the dull metallic ping of it hitting the metal grating setting him on edge. The console whirred, the TARDIS processing all kinds of information from gravimetrics to atmosphere density. The core thrummed gently, vents hissing steam. His own mind buzzed with its own interference, unwanted memories bumping around like a pinball machine. Silence was something the Doctor was not going to get. "Can't you just shut up?" he moaned, rising to his feet and glaring at the undulating core. "For 5..." The TARDIS thrummed louder, and the Doctor sank into the sofa by the console, wiping his hands down his face in exasperation, a shuddering breath escaping his lips. "I'm sorry, old girl. I'm old myself, and we've seen so many friends come and go, but never like this." He got up again, this time walking to the console. The sharp chord of blaster fire. He gave it an affectionate pat. The harsh howl of a singularity. "You're all I can ever rely on anymore." The TARDIS key, dropping to the steps. The Doctor adjusted the screens, hesitating before punching in coordinates at an agonising rate, each key ringing out like a nail being hammered into a coffin. "I always do this." The TARDIS hummed in agreement. "I always reach one of these goodbyes, realise how tired I am, and say I'm finally going to stop." He tugged on a pump, sighing. "Well, just one more push and there we go, it's done. A nice planet for us to retire to, permanently for once, like I always say we will." He looked up at the core, knowing that although he could not see any features, the TARDIS was staring at him intently. He saw pity in those glowing rods, but also a sense of disappointment. "I never do go through with this for more than a short while." His brow furrowed deeply for a moment as he stared at it. "One of these days, maybe I actually will." He took his hand away from the lever and stepped back a few paces, letting out a frustrated cry. The TARDIS whirred loudly to grab his attention, and through brimming tears he saw one of the screens blink to life, a waveform appearing. "What matters is this, Doctor. Don't travel alone." The Doctor did a double take as the voice of River Song echoed through the room. "River? You recorded that?" He pointed an accusatory finger at the TARDIS as it hummed in confirmation. "Honestly, old girl, anyone would think you were jealous. Anyone except me." An image flashed up on the screen now, a scan of a page from a book. The Doctor moved closer to read it. "And you might be alone, which you should never be. Don't be alone, Doctor." He grinned to himself, some of the pain ebbing away. Pond. "Yes, you're quite right," he said, looking up at the core again. "Got any suggestions?" There was a brief pause before an image of an old companion flashed up on screen. "Of course. She probably can't come with us, but her advice is always stellar." "Right!" He erased the previous coordinates and started punching in new ones with enthusiasm. "Earth it is!" He flipped the lever, and the TARDIS roared into life as it shot through the vortex, settling soon afterwards as it landed at its destination, almost eager to arrive. The Doctor smartened himself up in a flash, combing his hair and putting on a fresh jacket. It was not every day he gave this companion a visit. He opened the TARDIS doors with a flourish and stepped out onto Bannerman Road, looking across at the home of Sarah Jane Smith. It was a warm afternoon, and unless there were monsters to be chased, he had no doubt that she would be sat out in the garden enjoying a book or working on an article. He smiled to himself and pushed the doorbell. He looked about him as he waited, the neighbourhood looking as quiet as it always had, such an unassuming place for a planet-defending journalist to be tucked away, but he knew she enjoyed the quiet at times. After a short wait, he rapped hard on the door, wondering if the bell was actually working. He gave it an impatient scan with his sonic screwdriver and found it to be working fine, if a little out of tune. I never have been that good at patience, he thought to himself. He stood there a couple minutes more, watching the wind whistle through the trees, but nobody came. It was then that he noticed for the first time her beloved car, the Nissan Figaro she had kept all these years despite its age, was not in the driveway as it normally was. Must be out. I'll just hop forward a couple of hours, can't see myself waiting that long right now. His excitement driving him, he walked with a gentle skip back towards the TARDIS, but was interrupted with a loud whoop behind him.
Please halt and remove the alien technology from your personage. You are trespassing on Mistress's property.
The Doctor froze in place, a look of surprise twinged with a smile. I know that voice, he said, turning round, his smile breaking through in a wide grin. He had to look down to see the bearer of the unusual greeting, but his eyes had adjusted to the height at once, his brain still remembering the exact place he would have to look after all this time. The robot's ears rotated in their housing, the antenna resembling a tail raised yet unmoving, a sign of defence. The red light still shone through the plating, gazing at him. Hello, K9. K9 tilted his head up and down, taking in the Doctor silently for a moment.
You know my designation. Again, please remove the alien technology from your personage.
Ah, said the Doctor, gently setting the sonic screwdriver on the road in front of him. I think you'll find you know mine as well. Might take some digging in those memory banks. After all, you can only remember a face if you've seen it before. K9 said nothing, his body whirring as he took in the trespasser, ears wiggling in thought. The Doctor gave him a proper look as he waited. He had seen K9 in bad shape before, but to his surprise the dog looked rustier than ever, his sheen scraped away after what could have only been years. The plating on his side was bent and raised a little, enough to expose gnarled wires beneath. Even his ears moved a little awkwardly, squeaking as they twisted. The Doctor frowned in concern for his friend, but also because he knew Sarah Jane had always done her best to maintain her metal dog. The dark spot on the ground where K9 had appeared suggested to him some kind of messy teleport had been used, probably old and slightly dangerous, given the burnt tarmac. He wondered how old. After a while longer processing than the Doctor was used to, K9 tilted his head up and wagged his tail with a quiet grinding noise.
Master?
The Doctor smiled again. That's right, good dog. He bent down again and pet him, the dog rocking with excitement on his tired wheels.
Very good to see you, Master. You regenerated.
A couple of times, yes. In fact, you look like you've been leading quite a life yourself. What are you doing using a teleporter?
I have been charged with protecting Mistress's property,
he said with importance. And you're doing an excellent job. That doesn't fully answer my question though. Where were you? K9 gave a shuffle that seemed uneasy.
At my home, Master.
Your memory circuits must be in bad shape. This is your home.
Not anymore.
The Doctor's face fell a little. Oh. How long for?
By my calculations. 20 years.
What, you all just retired? Sarah Jane loved this place. Anyway, what did you do with Mr. Smith? You can hardly take a supercomputer like that out of the house.
Mistress did not move.
The doctor froze. I'm sorry?
Mistress did not move.
A sense of dread overtook the Time Lord. The wind in the trees died a little, as if the flow of time itself had slowed to a trickle, languishing on the moment. K9, do you know what year it is?
The year is 2031, Master.
The doctor's face took a moment to catch up with the terrible pang of realization, the colour draining from his face. Oh. Mistress did not move.
Affirmative, Master.
She's gone, isn't she? K9's ears and tail lowered with the grind.
Affirmative, Master.
The doctor wiped his eyes on instinct, noticing the tears that had started to fall for the first time. I overshot. Oh, Sarah. He looked at K9 and gave the dog a consoling pat on his head, knowing that he should help his old friend before the knowledge sank in too far. He picked up his screwdriver and started to walk towards the house. You're looking very much worse for wear. Come on, let's go inside and see what we can do.
Affirmative, Master. Thank you.
K9 moved with a piercing grinding of gears, shambling forward on his wheels, one of which the doctor could now see was wobbling badly. After a few slow meters, K9 sparked a little and came to a halt.
Excuse me, Master. I must recalibrate.
The doctor shook his head and with a grunt hefted the aging metal dog in his arms, walking towards the house. No, come on, you've done plenty today already. I'm not sure you could defend a teapot in this state, but I appreciate you trying. Still got a key tucked away? A little drawer popped open on K9's back and a key slid out. I'm not going to think about where you've been keeping that, but thank you. The doctor lowered K9 to the ground and unlocked the red door, swinging it open. He could have just taken K9 to the TARDIS to fix him up, he knew that, but part of him wanted to see the house. As he carried on inside, he almost wished he had left that part well alone. Cobwebs had crept across every bookshelf, every chair. Some stuff was covered, but mostly it had been left so that Luke or Sky could have it if they wanted. Understandably, they had both declined. Much like the doctor went around trying to help people, so Sarah Jane had helped the pair of them, taking them under her wing, helping them lead the normal lives they deserved. Now it would be someone else's turn to save the Earth when the doctor was not around. The thought that Sarah Jane was really gone settled in further as the doctor looked out on the garden, overgrown with wild flowers now. It was beautiful, but still felt hollow. The doctor did not want new growth to bloom, he just wanted her to still be there, just like the other one whose name he could not yet bear to think of for more than a second at a time. 2 people he cared about gone, in what to him was mere days. He tore his eyes from the garden. Why would he want new growth to bloom when the old seemed so fruitful? The worst part of it for the doctor to wrap his head around was not what he could see, but what he could hear, or rather the lack of it. In the TARDIS, all he had wanted was some silence to sift through his troubled thoughts. Now he wished for anything else. He started to walk up the stairs towards her attic, where she would have kept various tools and pieces in case K9 ever needed fixing. Come on, let's have a look at you. He placed K9 on a large table in the corner, examining various tools and alien artifacts, getting a little lost in her workspace before remembering he could just use his sonic screwdriver. What he did not have was K9's schematics. He knew who would, however, and turned round, staring at the brick wall on the other side of the room. Now what was it she used to say? Ah yes. Mr. Smith, I need you. The wall hissed, opening up with a large puff of steam. The Zylox supercomputer that Sarah Jane kept in the attic, Mr. Smith held a vast network of information rivaling any intelligence agency on the planet, including UNIT. The Doctor waited for the jingle that heralded his emergence, but where there used to be a familiar fanfare, there was nothing. K9, what happened to Mr. Smith?
Luke extracted him into a phone of his design.
He always was a smart one. That would take me a while to figure out. Very good, that will keep him safe and Mr. Smith out of the wrong hands. I guess we'll just have to do this the old-fashioned way then. The Doctor started to move the screwdriver over K9 in a surgical manner, scanning every inch of him to see what was wrong. As he commenced, he spotted a picture of Sarah, Luke and Skye on the desk. Where are Luke and Skye now? He asked.
Luke works in medical science. Skye works for Torchwood.
The Doctor raised an inquisitive eyebrow. Now Luke's choice I can see Sarah approving of, but Skye joining Torchwood? She never approved of their methods.
Luke decided to work in medical advancement because of Mistress, as did Skye with Torchwood.
She asked her to?
Affirmative. She said her influence would be positive.
The Doctor smiled as he finished his calculations and pulled off a panel. She's got a point there. Well, they both sound like they have good heads on their shoulders, smart enough ones to listen to their mother at any rate. But you, my friend, he continued as he gently patted K9's metal head, look like yours has seen better days. Where did you go?
I went to UNIT.
He removed a couple of frayed wires from under the panel, causing K9 to wiggle. Sorry about that, they needed replacing. Your memory circuits will also need a reboot once I've fixed you, but that's all.
Affirmative. Thank you, Master.
That's quite alright. Other than occasionally popping back here to see off intruders, what did you do at UNIT?
I do not recall.
Ah, the Doctor said with a sour face. I should have asked you that before messing with your memory circuits. They clearly didn't treat you very well anyway, which is hardly appropriate. I'll have to have some words with them about that the next time I visit. Any chance you remember how you got quite so damaged?
Intruders came for Mistress's technology. I forcibly removed them.
Ha! I bet they weren't expecting that. Loyal to the end, like any good dog. He finished replacing the wires and started attending to the rust, using the sonic to fiddle with the molecular structure. K9 whirred as if tickled. Sorry about that, but you can start the memory reboot now.
Affirmative, Master. Memory circuits rebooting.
His visor started pulsing red as he set to work quietly, the Doctor taking his time to make sure K9 looked good as new whilst he waited. He replaced the wheel with one Sarah Jane had on her desk, presumably fashioned for such an occasion. He gave a sad smile, knowing she never intended to leave her family in this way. After a long pause thinking on this, he sighed and steepled his fingers, leaning back in the chair as he stared at his friend. That memory reboot of yours should almost be finished, so I should probably ask the question. How did she die, K9?
Cancer. It was terminal.
The Doctor placed his face in his hands, shuddering. He sat there for quite some time, a numb feeling covering him like a shroud. The thought that after everything she had come up against and survived, from the Daleks to the Trickster, Something so devastating and yet so earthly as cancer had been what got her in the end, made his heart's ache. I should have been there, old friend. I'm sorry.
Do not be.
You must be damaged, the doctor replied with a mirthless chuckle, standing up shakily. I have every reason to apologise. I travel around in my TARDIS saving the universe. I've saved thousands, maybe millions of lives over millennia. He swiped his hand across the desk with a shuddering cry. An array of artefacts falling to the floor with dull thuds. But not hers! If any single person I've encountered deserved a better end, it was her! My Sarah Jane! He sat on the bed, still shaking as he looked at the floor, willing it to swallow him and all his regenerations whole. He let out a tired sigh. Now I really am sorry, old friend. I shouldn't have lashed out. As his gaze drifted, he saw a photo that had fallen when he swept the desk. Fortunately for him, it had landed glass up, which also let him clearly see the two faces staring back at him. K9 let out a long beep.
Memory circuits rebooted.
The doctor was not paying attention to K9's words, instead picking up the photo with a sad smile. The faces staring back at him were of himself, much younger and wearing that scarf part of him still loved, and Sarah Jane herself. They beamed at him and he at them, the happy memories flooding back, replacing some of the bitterness. As he reminisced, K9 whirred loudly, his ears rotating.
Recording accessed.
The doctor looked up. Sorry, old boy, I missed that. Doctor, said a voice that made the doctor start, frail sounding yet still recognisable. My doctor. Sarah? I told K9 to record this message for when you finally came back, and that's not a dig, you always do eventually. I'm just sorry that you weren't in time to say goodbye, more for your sake than my own. She paused and gave a rattly breath, whilst the doctor fished around for a handkerchief. The time we had together was wonderful, but you gave me so much more than just that time. You gave me my confidence, and the ability to protect what I loved myself when you weren't available. I know for a fact you've done that for a lot more people than just me. I know, you're probably sad right now. No matter why you came back, hearing this news probably wasn't easy, and I'm sorry for that. What I'm not sorry for is myself. Again, a lot more people than myself can say that, and you're going to continue helping people to do just that. Whilst there will always be plenty of planets saving, there will be an unfathomably bigger number of people that need your help, including yourself. An expression of surprise crossed his face as he wiped his eyes, but as she paused again, he nodded with understanding. No, whenever you feel that pain creep in, what you can do is take your own help and keep going. Keep saving lives, because no matter how mine ends, you saved mine in more ways than you know. We always knew this day would come eventually. I know we did, but I hope you can look past any sadness, see the hope you gave me, and remember it as your own. Goodbye, Doctor, and never let that hope die.
End of recording.
The doctor sat there for a moment, then took K9 down from the desk and placed him on the floor, joining him there, his back against the bed. He stroked K9's own back fondly. Good dog. K9 tilted his head upwards at his master.
I am detecting a heightened state of emotion. Are you functioning well, Master?
Yes, K9. Just...
Processing?
A smile crept across the doctor's face. Processing, yes. Speaking of which, how are you processing now? Feel in better shape? K9 span on the spot, testing his repaired body.
Very well, Master.
The dog nodded his approval, then continued.
As a matter of fact, I have an inquiry.
What would that be?
I registered your heightened emotional state before you knew of Mistress's departure. Why did you come back?
The doctor thought about this for a long moment, leaving K9's ears wagging with interest. To see an old friend, but also to seek advice and comfort. I lost another person recently. If anything, it seems like we've both been let down by people we thought we could trust.
I am sorry you did not find what you came here for.
You know what? I wouldn't actually say that. In the end, I think that's exactly what I found, just in an unexpected fashion. I'm rather good at that.
Affirmative, Master.
The doctor gave a genuine chuckle. Look at the pair of us. Just an old man and his dog brought back together by someone whose words make it abundantly clear that she wouldn't want us to lose heart over her departure.
Affirmative, Master.
The doctor looked at the ceiling, the cogs turning in his mind. You know, I think with some tinkering I could put a deadlock on this building. Biologically coded, let Luke and Skye still come in. I'm sure Luke would be smart enough to expand it to anyone he trusted if necessary as well. K9 backed up a little.
What purpose would I have?
Well, I was wondering if you would like to travel with me again. It would be nice having a faithful friend at my side after everything that's happened. What do you say? K9 wagged his tail smoothly.
This sounds very agreeable.
The doctor gave him another pat and stood up, K9 moving to his side. Right then, time for the old man and his dog to get going. After I get that deadlock sorted, we have somewhere to be. The doctor picked up the photo of him and Sarah Jane, looking at her as he slid it into his jacket pocket with a wistful grin. As they went downstairs, the doctor went into the garden and picked out a few of the wildflowers that he deemed the most beautiful. Maybe this new growth was not so bad after all. After one last brief look at the house, the doctor locked the door and the pair went to the TARDIS. K9 looked up at the doctor with a curious whir.
What is the purpose of our trip, Master?
The doctor was beaming when he answered. We have a good friend we need to visit. One last time. You have been listening to Doctor Who Tales from Time, An Old Man and His Dog. Written and narrated by Joshua Manley. Created in memory of Elizabeth Sladen.